Lord Tremendous here, and I got another battle report here for you. This is my first ever Kings of War game. First ever Kings of War battle report. Just like my third game of Kings of War, I think. And it's a 2,000 point game, and it's not terrible. I tried it out. It's, like I said, my third game. And I won't lie, the first game that I played, the first turn that we took, we were both like, this kind of sucks. And by the third turn, we were like, okay, I need to change my army this way, I need to do that, I need to do this. So it kind of scoops you up pretty quick and catches your attention. But anyway, here's the third game of me playing around with this, seeing if I want to get into it or not. So it is I, Lord Tremendous of the Ogres, versus Cannon of Doom of the Kingdoms of Men. And it's a good game. It really is. So sit back, relax, and get ready to see how it goes. Here's my list. And again, this is like my third game and probably like second list. So bear with me. I'm still learning on how to build lists for Kings of War. But I have a Warlord on a Chariot with ensorcelled armor. And I did that so that his armor save, I think, is a 6 now. I have an Army Standard, which is a garbage hero, by the way. But I have him because of the Inspiring rule, which is basically rerolls for your morale checks or nerve checks. And he's got the Healing Charm so that he can actually heal my units a little bit every turn, so he's not completely useless. I have a Warlock with Scarlet Maw's Fenulin Amulet, which just makes his Lightning Bolt spell a lot better. And a Boomer Sergeant with Piercing Arrow, which basically it's a bombardier, and he fires his cannons at better. It makes it easier for me to wound with the Piercing Arrow. So I kind of like where my characters are going with this, and I like that I can do a little personalization with them to make them more like they're mine. So I'm not out of my element here. Going into my units, I've got a unit of Red Goblins. They're a regiment of 20 guys. They've got bows. Really, I just threw them in there because I wanted to shoot at stuff. I gave them fire oil in case I run into something with regeneration. I like the way regen works in this game, and I like the way everything doesn't have it. But if they do have it, and I shoot at them with these guys, it's easier for me to wound them, which I like. I've got a unit of Warriors, a Horde formation of 6 with the Chant of Hate. I believe that is one that lets me re-roll 1s to hit. To wound. And then I've got Berserker Braves Horde, I've got a unit of Berserker Braves in Horde formation, which is 6 models. And they have the Blessing of the Gods, which allows me to re-roll 1s to hit. And then I have Siege Breakers, a horde of them, so a total of 6. And they've got Dwarven Ale, which makes it so that I think there's something called Headstrong, which, actually, now that I think about it, was kind of a pointless thing to give them. But I could be wrong. I gave it to him for a reason, and I just like the idea of my guys being drunk, so that's why I gave it to him. Then I've got a regiment of Boomers with just 3 models, but they got the Here-Seeking Chant, which gives them abilities to just hurt better with their cannons. I got a Chariot regiment of 3 with the Brew of Haste, making them faster, and of course I brought the Mammoth with a Ballista. That's going to do it for my list. I'm going to post my opponent's list, play some music. Feel free to pause it whatever you like to see what he took. Here's deployment, and we are playing with the free rules. Neither of us own a book yet, so we're just going with kind of what we know. We go 12 inches in, and the idea is just to kill as many of the guys on the other side as you possibly can before 6 turns are up. We're pretty sure that's how it works, and if not, correct me in the comment section, because, hell, I'm learning. But anyway, left to right, I got a Boomer Sergeant, followed by my Siege Breakers. Behind them is my Army Standard useless guy. I've got a unit of Berserkers next to them. I've got my Warlock behind them and to the right. In front of them are my Boomers. And then to the right there are the Warriors, Mammoth, Red Goblins, the Chariot Regiment guys, and my Warlord on a chariot. Because when you say chariot, basically you just got to put them on something and put them on the correct base, which I really like the freedom of. I think that's pretty cool. But there it is. What my opponent has left to right, I don't know. I just don't know the armies well enough. I don't know anything well enough to really guess. But throughout the game, you should be able to piece together what he has. He's got a little unit of 20 on the left there, hidden behind the house. He's got a huge unit of knights in the middle. He's got a huge brick of pole arm guys. In the middle, he's got 2 units of riflemen inside the forest with a Beast of War with him or something like that. And next to him is a unit of archers, big old unit of archers. And then behind him, he's got 2 siege artillery things and a cannon. I'm pretty sure that's right. He's got characters mixed in there somewhere. I think his wizards between one of the siege artillery and the riflemen, and his army standard guys next to him there. Where his character is on the Pegasus, I don't remember. But yeah, that's pretty much it for deployment. So here's Topple 1 after movement, and I decide to hell with it and fire forward as fast as I can. Ogres are still fast in this game, no doubt about it, and charges and stuff like that are done during the movement phase. There doesn't seem to be a sequence or anything like that. You just kind of do it as you see fit. So you could actually like move things out of your way and then charge. I think if we're reading that right, that's what you can do. So it's very interesting. It's a different dynamic. It's a different mechanic on how you move. So it's interesting. I don't know if I like it yet or not. It's a different aspect, but when it comes to this game, I went in the Ninth Age with preconceived notions of what I was expecting. I went in the 40K with preconceived notions of what I was expecting. And it kind of bit me in the ass with both games. In this one, I'm trying to stay as open-minded as possible. I'm just going to take the game as it is, and instead of trying to put my own wishes on it, I'm just going to accept what it is and see if I can find some fun in there. So charges are just double your speed, and it's auto make it. So if you're double your speed or less away from a unit, you can charge them and make it, and you're gonna know that. So it's different. I don't know if I like it yet or not. I haven't enough games, but I know I am having fun with this, so that's got to count for something. So there's where everything's at, and that's the end of my movement. So in Kings of War, shooting and magic is combined, and I really didn't have any targets. A lot of my stuff marched, and so when you go that fast, you can't shoot or do any magic or anything like that. My boomers? No, it wasn't my boomers. It was my warlock. He fired lightning bolt into the knights up there and did a single wound to them. And what's neat about that is it's cumulative. That wound stays on him for the rest of the game until that unit is destroyed. You don't pick up models, you pick up units. And the thing about it is, if I rolled boxcars for his nerve test or in the morale phase, that unit just gets picked up unless he's got a army standard or something with inspiring around him. So I have to re-roll it. It would have just got picked up. So there's a chance that you could do a single wound to a unit and destroy it. So that's not what happened here. The unit was fine, but that's all that happens in my shooting/magic phase. We go over here to bottom of 1 after movement, and my opponent comes forward a little bit. He's had just about as many games of this as I have, maybe 1 or 2 extra, but he's just better at these games than I am, so it is what it is. His hero on a Pegasus comes flying over the houses there to land there to put some threat on my sergeant. The little unit of 20 guys does the same thing. His knights block off that bottleneck between the 2 houses. The big unit of pikemen, I don't know why they move. Oh yeah, they move like that so that the unit of 20 guys can move forward. Because if I can break him, then he can countercharge me next turn, and that would suck. The rest of his stuff on the right side there, on the right flank, doesn't move at all. Doesn't really need to. And that's it for his movement. We go into the shooting phase, and his archers open up on my warlord on a chariot, or a big old bear, I guess. And they do a single wound to him, which hurts. Then his arbalest guy, basically his riflemen, open up on my chariot regiment, or whatever you want to call them, and do 3 wounds to them. So, again, I'm probably okay because it's all a nerve check. Nothing has, like, a predetermined amount of wounds. You could have, like, 30 of them on there. If you roll snake eyes, they're going to stick around, which is pretty cool. But the more wounds you take, it's added to a 2d6 roll, and if it breaks one of your thresholds, your top threshold, you run away. The whole unit unit is destroyed. So, and boxcars always breaks a unit unless you can make them re-roll it. So it's always a risk, and the more wounds a unit takes, the more prone they are to run away. So it's interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing more games just to see how that mechanic works. I believe one of his siege artillery shoots at my warriors there and hits them and does a couple of wounds to them, which that could have been a lot worse given just how much damage those things can put out. And then I think his character on a Pegasus has Lightning Bolt, and he fires it off at my sergeant and does a single wound, which is just rude. Luckily for me, none of my units break in my morale checks, so here's top of 2 after movement. So I'm not close enough to charge anything because my opponent's not an idiot, but I have to start baiting him. So I leave my siege breakers and my berserkers in the forest back there because it's actually, they have cover or something like that. I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, they have basically, it's one harder to hit them now. So I take my boomer sergeant and I move him over so that the knights can only charge him or the boomers themselves. And if they do, they can only overrun, where the warlock is. They can't run into the warlock. And so it doesn't count like as another charge or anything like that, which is curious. I don't know how I feel about that particular rule. I don't like the way you can't bounce into another unit and you'd stop an inch away. That doesn't really mesh well in my head. Doesn't mean it's wrong, just means I have a problem with it. But I'm going to play it. Like I said, I'm not trying to put my own expectations on the game. I want to see if I can enjoy the game as written, and if I can, great, and if not, I'll move on to something else. Simple as that. On the right side there, my warriors, my mammoth, and my red goblins kind of move up a little bit to start putting some threat on the right side there. And my unit of chariots, the regiment of chariot guys, they, my cavalry basically, they slam into his beast of war because I'm hoping to be able to do enough damage to break the stupid thing and start wailing away at the stuff inside the forest and all that stuff. Yes, they'll be hindered, but it should be interesting. Meanwhile, I move my warlord on a chariot up so he can charge that unit next turn, and hopefully it all works out. We'll see. During the shooting phase, my red goblins open up on the rifleman on the left and do a couple of wounds to him, which is really impressive, all things considered. My boomers open up on the knights and are able to slip 4 wounds through on them, which was really kind of exciting. It was like, ooh, you guys could possibly break this turn, and how cool would that be? So we go into the assault phase, or combat phase, or whatever the hell it's called. And in Kings of War, I'm used to, in combat, my side fighting, my opponent's side fighting, and usually initiative order deciding on who fights first. Not so in Kings of War. In Kings of War, if it's your turn, you're rolling all the dice, you're doing everything. It's very War Machine-esque like that. So anyway, my chariot unit here slams into his beast of war, and I do 7 wounds to him, and he doesn't get to fight back because it's not his turn. So that was interesting to me, to say the least. And 7 wounds is a lot of wounds. I do just miss him in the morale phase, though. As you can see, I roll a 16. I think I needed a 17 to break him. That was so close. He is... I can't remember what it's called. Demoralized or something like that. Basically, he can't do anything next turn, but he's still on the table. So if I can't kill him off, he'll be back in his next turn, and that sucks. But at least it wasn't all for nothing. And then his rifleman that I was shooting at earlier, I get a 10 on, and that makes it so they can't shoot next turn either. So my Chaos Regiment, or my Chariot Regiment, does have to back up a little bit away from the Beast of War, but he can't countercharge me, and that's kind of nice. That brings us over here to bottom of 2 after movement, and my opponent comes at me with a vengeance, and I can understand that. I misplaced my boomers. I thought he would go after my sergeant, and no, he went after the boomers, which is actually fine. I shouldn't say I misplaced him. I thought he was going to go after the sergeant. I should have marched with the sergeant instead of tried to shoot with him, but I was greedy, and it would have put them in a much better place had he decided to charge him with the knights, or move them back, whatever, I didn't care. But he didn't. He went after the boomers, and they caught it full in the face, so they're dead. But my counter charge into his knights next turn should kill them off, and they're worth a lot more than the boomers, I would imagine. He's got a little unit of 20 infantry guys that are coming up to, take the warriors or the mammoth attack, and he's got the pikemen behind him or the pole arm regiment to countercharge in his next turn. Again, it's a lot of give and take. It's an interesting mechanic that I'm still learning. And then I believe nothing charges into my chariots because he's just going to shoot the hell out of them and break them that way. Or at least that's his plan. And I think that's it for movement. We jump right into the shooting phase, and his archers and his riflemen, and I think even the Beast of War thing all open up on these guys, on my chariot unit, and they take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wounds for a total of 10, and their nerve is only a 15, 17, so if I got a 15, they basically cower. If I get a 17 or higher, they run away and the unit's destroyed, so all bad things. It was a good plan by my opponent. I think one of his siege artillery things fire at my warriors again and hit and do 5 wounds to him this time for a total of 7. That hurts because if he can roll a 10, they're gone. And I don't think I brought my guys close enough for a reroll. So if they break this turn, that's really going to suck. His hero on a Pegasus fires a lightning bolt at my boomer sergeant and does another wound to him. And you got to respect the consistency. So then we go into combat, and his knights beat the tar out of our boomers. They don't run away, they just get, skewered on 20 lances. 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 wounds. The only way that unit is sticking around is if he rolls snake eyes. We go into the morale section, and my guys, my chariot unit breaks. As you can see, they run screaming back home because they just got riddled with bullet holes. Poor bastards. But you know what? They didn't do terrible. I rolled poorly for the tank or the Beast of War, whatever it is. And honestly, even if the tank had broke, it wouldn't have really mattered because they still would have riddled me with bullets and killed me. Very well played by my opponent. What can you do? And then over here, more of the same. The boomers, they didn't have a chance. Yeah, the knight unit, especially a big old horde brick of them like that, is super dangerous. And the boomers found that out to their, detriment. And it was really awesome. Anyway, none of my other units break, and that's really, really good. So here's top of 3 after movement, and yes, that knight unit cannot be allowed to live. I send both the berserkers and the siege breakers into them with the hopes of destroying them, because they have to die. They're just entirely too dangerous. My boomer sergeant turns around to look at his hero on a Pegasus, because he wants to return fire. My army standard guy turns over to just kind of look at him, because he's got nothing else going on right now. I possibly should have moved him over to what's it called? Heal the warrior unit, but I didn't. I'm still learning. I got a lot to learn about this. The warlock runs over to look at the hero on a Pegasus because I'd like to take him off the table this turn. And my mammoth charges into the unit of 20 guys because I'm pretty sure he can take them. The goblins stay put. They're going to keep shooting at the riflemen and hopefully take them off the table. And my hero on a chariot charges into the Beast of War because I smell blood in the water and I want points. That's it for movement. We go into the shooting magic phase, and my warlock fires a lightning bolt at the hero on a Pegasus, doing 3 wounds to him, because fuck him in particular. My boomer sergeant unloads his own gun into him, doing 2 more wounds, so in fairness, now they're even. And then we do that beautiful, beautiful combat thing. And the number one thing that I've learned about characters, heroes, or whatever the hell you want to call them in this game, they kinda suck. Really not very good. In this instance, I did 2 wounds to this thing for a total of 9. Not super impressive whatsoever. To prove my point, my mammoth is able to do 4 wounds to these guys, and I rolled terrible for him. Much, much better than what my character was able to do. Granted, these guys are a little bit easier to wound, but, I think I needed 2s with everything. Yeah, it could have been dice, it could have just been me sucking, but it just seems that heroes really aren't overly heroic in this game. The knight combat over here is pretty rough, actually. In total, there are 17 wounds done to this unit, and that is stupid exciting because as long as I don't roll boxcars, that unit's gone, and that is a huge, devastating unit to get rid of. Really happy about that. Shift over to the morale phase, and yes, the knights break. I don't roll snake eyes, and that's a lot of points off the table, which really gives me a fighting chance in this one, which is good because I've been on the back foot for a while. So my unit of berserkers, they come forward because they're going to try to support the warriors and the mammoth, and my siege breakers turn around to look at the little unit of 20 and the hero on a Pegasus that are behind them because they got to die too. Everybody's got to get dead. In a surprise, his hero on a Pegasus, like I was saying earlier, heroes really aren't overly heroic. He took 5 wounds, I think rolled a 9 for a total of 14, and he fled. He ran off the table, died, exploded, committed hara-kiri, whatever you want to call it. He's no longer a threat, and that's awesome. So with that, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. Here's my opponent's bottom of 3 after movement, and he comes after me. His unit up against the mammoth did not break. They were actually, I rolled pretty low and they stuck around, so they countercharged the mammoth, and that totally makes sense. The archers charge with the Beast of War into the Warlord on a chariot on the right flank there. And when you run into a flank, you double your amount of attacks, and when you run into a rear, you triple it. So my hero on a chariot is probably going to be no more after this. Completely my fault. I knew that going into it. I honestly thought my hero on a chariot would be able to destroy the 7 wound already Beast of War, and I'm a fool for thinking that. The little unit of 20 on the left flank there doesn't move. He's kind of got me. That was a really good play on his part because there's no reason for him to move forward, and now I've got an entire unit of siege breakers completely out of position, so that kind of sucks. Other than that, he's got no movement, so that's the end of his phase. In the shooting phase, his siege artillery takes careful aim at my warriors once again and puts some more wounds on them. Not much, maybe 1 or 2, but still, it's going the right direction. And then we go into combat. Well, my hero on a chariot gets steamrolled. 3, 6, 9 more wounds get put on him for a total of 10, and he's a 15-17, but all he has to do is roll average twice, and I'm gone. So that's really, really bad. His little sacrificial unit of warriors there attacked my mammoth and put 5 wounds on him. Both of us were like, holy crap! But I'm feeling pretty confident that my mammoth isn't going anywhere. We go into the morale phase, and my character, I get lucky. He doesn't roll average, and ends up with a 15, which wavers him, shakes him, or whatever it's called. Basically, he can't do anything next turn as he cowers and tries to put his intestines back into his stomach. And this happens. He rolls boxcars for my mammoth. Yep, there's nothing inspiring near enough. There's nothing I can do about it. He rolls boxcars, and my mammoth breaks. Oh, that suck! Then my warriors over here, they don't break, but they're cowering, wavered, whatever you want to call it. Basically, he rolled a 16, 1 more and they'd have been gone, but they can't do anything next turn, and that's gonna hurt, especially with that unit staring right at them. I really need to do something about them quick. So that brings us over here to top of 4 after movement, and I don't have a ton, but what I do have is gonna have to do. My berserkers are close enough to charge the little unit that just broke my mammoth, and I figure, what the hell, I might as well. My boomer sergeant backs up. He's gonna try to spin around and go after the cannon and the siege artillery. My warlock moves over to try to take out the unit of riflemen that have already been hurt, hopefully make them break. My army standard moves closer to the warriors to try to heal some of their wounds. My goblins stay put, and my warlord on a chariot goes, hey, I'm going to stay right here because my intestines are falling out. And that's it for my movement. In the shooting phase, my warlock uses his lightning bolt on that unit of riflemen, only able to slip 1 more wound through on him, but at least I get the test for him this turn. Who knows? Maybe it'll be enough. We go into combat because it's a quick game. Like I said, I mean, my shooting and magic isn't super strong. I'm ogres. We do combat. and 11 wounds get put through on these guys. The Berserkers are a really, really dangerous unit. Unfortunately, they're a glass cannon, and yeah, I'm about to find that out. But 11 wounds onto this unit right now is super cool. And yeah, in the morale phase, it breaks and dies as my unit, or for my movement for the Berserker unit. I back them up a D3 inches or something like that. I think they go back an inch. I know they're getting charged by the pikemen next turn. There's nothing I can do about that, but maybe I can countercharge in turn 6 and do something. We'll see. So here's bottom of 4 after movement, and like you knew was happening, the pikemen guys come into my berserkers and they're screwed. But like I said, maybe I can do something against them in my counter turn in turn 5, not 6. Nothing I think attacks my hero on a chariot. I think they're just going to shoot the hell out of him. In fact, his Beast of War actually moves behind the archer so he can't be charged if I were to survive this next turn of shooting. His little unit of 20 guys stay away from the siege breakers, which is probably smart. I probably should have moved my siege breakers over, but I didn't, so, well, you know, I made a bad decision. I'm going to do that a lot. I'm not very good at this game. And the rest of his stuff stays still, because he has no reason at all to move forward. In his shooting phase, his riflemen, I think, open up on my hero on a chariot, putting another wound or 2 on him. Not much. He's not the easiest thing in the world to wound, but he is able to get at least 1 through. His archers fire away at my hero on a chariot as well, putting 3 more wounds onto him, and that pretty much seals his fate as far as I'm concerned. Then I believe his siege artillery just opens up on my warriors, doing another 5 wounds to him. Oh man, he needs 5s to hit, and the boy can't fail. I had just healed them last turn too, so what did I have? 3, 6, 7, 10, 12 wounds. That's really, really bad. We reach the combat phase, and even hindered, because his unit is touching the forest, he's able to do 4, 8, 9 wounds to my Berserker unit. Not devastating. It would have been a lot more had it not been for his hindering. However, that still sucks a lot, and I don't know if they're going to be here next turn or not. I'm scared. Combat's over, so we go over into the morale phase, and yeah, my hero on a chariot does not stick around. With his entrails literally a necklace on him now, he has his chariot take him back home to get to the doctor as quick as possible. My berserkers run away as well. 9 wounds is apparently their threshold. Yeah, I think my opponent rolled like a 10 or something like that. It was, yeah, more than enough to make them break and run away, which really, really hurt. But it's my own stupid fault for putting him in that position. And then my warriors finally have enough. They break. The siege artillery putting a bunch of wounds on them was just enough for them. They break and run off as well, and it's a damn shame. Gonna miss them. They didn't do enough this game. So that 180'd on me really, really quick, but I'm having a lot of fun, so screw it. Here's top of 5 after movement, and my stuff kind of moves over towards the big old unit of pikemen, because I wants them dead. I've only got some siege breakers, a army standard bearer, a warlock, and a boomer sergeant left, but damn it, I'm gonna give it a shot. Everything comes towards the pikemen, the goblins stay still because they're gonna keep shooting, and that's it for movement. My archers continue shooting at the riflemen because I just want the points at this point, and I do 2 more wounds to them, but they don't break. I'll let you know right now in the morale phase, I can't roll high enough to make them run away, and it's stupid frustrating. And then just because he's there, my warlock fires his fireball at the little general there or whatever, his little hero on foot, and is able to do 2 wounds to him. It's really bad considering my fireball is a 12, but it is what it is. I at least did 2 wounds to him, but he doesn't break in the morale phase either. With no combat, that brings us to bottom of 5 after movement, and it's just a lot of posturing, a lot of positioning. His big old brick of polearm guys start looking at my big old brick of siege breakers, wondering what I'm going to do with them. My warlock gets charged by his character, and that totally makes sense, and the boomer sergeant is just kind of like, you're dead, dude! The big unit, the small unit of 20 guys on the left flank there back up. They actually don't get closer at all, and everything on his right flank stays right where they're at because they shoot stuff. There's really no reason for them to move whatsoever. That is it for his movement. We kick off his shooting phase with his archers opening up on my archers and him doing 6 wounds to him. His archers are much better than mine. We go into combat, and his general, like I said, heroes are not very heroic in this game. He's only able to do a single wound to me, and luckily, I don't break because of it. So it's a little weird how weak heroes are, but I'm slowly but surely getting my mind around that. My goblins, on the other hand, they don't break, but they're wavered. They're going to cower and bury their dead for a turn because they ends up rolling a 12, which is their wavering point, or whatever it is, disoriented, whatever the thing is. They can't do anything for a turn because they're beat to hell by 6 wounds from archers. So that sucks, but listen, this really wasn't going my way anyway, so it is what it is. That takes us to top of 6. Last turn, gotta make it count, right? I don't do nothing. Not a damn thing. My Warlock backs up a little bit. My Boomer Sergeant moves back a little bit. I want to kill his character, his general, and that's it. My Goblins, they fall back into the ruins because that's the only thing I can give them is the fallback order or halt or I think change position. But all they do is they fall back a little bit so that he has to move, hopefully, in order to shoot him. And that's it for my movement. I got nothing else. In the shoot and magic phase, I can't remember if it's a fireball or if it's the shooter or if it's just both, but in total there's 4 wounds on his general now, and that gives me a chance. And yeah, I end up rolling a 12, which is great. He's wavered, so he can't do anything next turn other than move a little bit. So that's something, but yeah, not the point value that I needed. And that brings us to the bottom of 6 after movement. Well, his pikemen are just in range. I didn't think to measure it. I should have moved back further. I'm an idiot. What can you do? So he slams into, I believe, my shooter sergeant, my boomer sergeant, whatever the hell you want to call it. And the rest of his stuff stays put. And that's it for movement. In his shooting phase, he opens back up on my goblins, putting 3 more wounds, 2 or 3 more wounds. Let's see, they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 2 more wounds through on them, and that's probably going to spell their disaster. So we go into combat, and he's able to put 3, 6, 9, 10 wounds on my Boomer Sergeant, which is really bad. He already had one on him for a total of 11, which sees him break and run away into morale phase. As you can see, he rolled a 6, plus 11 is 17. There's nothing in my army that would have stuck around with that roll. So it is what it is, and my Boomer Sergeant, I would like to say he runs away, but let's be honest, he got stabbed like the kebab they made him. It was also enough for my Red Goblins. They decided to pack it in and come home. Can't blame them. It was a real bad situation to begin with. And there it is. There's the end of the game. I got my face kicked in. It was a good game, though. Really, really enjoyed myself. Had a lot of fun. We were laughing. It's interesting. I would not have guessed that I would have enjoyed a game as simplistic as Kings of War is. And it really is. The armies are all pretty much streamlined. The stats are all pretty much streamlined. Everything more or less makes sense. I don't really like that heroes aren't heroic. I don't like that after you hit or destroy a unit in combat, you can't overrun into another one. But I recognize that I've got years of fantasy and Ninth Age now stuck in my head about how war games should work. So maybe I'm wrong here. I'm going at it with that opinion that, you know what, no, that's not the way it's supposed to be, because I'm having fun with this game. I'm enjoying this game. How long that's going to last, I have no idea. But I'll keep playing it until it's not fun anymore. And right now, it is a load of fun. My local gaming group is really enjoying it, and a couple of them are already talking about going to Texas for GTs and stuff like that. And we've played half a dozen games or so. So it's real positive. It's looking real good. And honestly, it is so nice to be playing a game that's backed by an actual company for a change. So I know that's terrible, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see where it goes. And we'll get to the recap because this game is over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
So this was a definite defeat for Lord Tremendous. There can be no doubt about that at all. In the end, I only had a brick of warriors, a warlock, and an army standard bearer left on the table. Everything else had been destroyed. My opponent really took it to me. Yeah, in the end, he had only lost his Huron of Pegasus, his Night Horde, and his Mounted Scouts. I don't believe I was able to do anything else to him, which kind of sucked. kinda sucked. I wish I had been able to do more, but I just got outplayed. Simple as that. All in all, this was a lot of fun. I mean, it was great to have the models on the table. It was great to have streamlined rules. It was great. There was some small things that were like, but not game breakers, not deal breakers. Not my first game. Like I said, it's like my third game of Kings of War, and I still have a lot to learn about the game. And it's a lot more simple than 9th Age or Fantasy or 40K is. But it's just honest, quick fun. The games are fast, the turns are fast. You would think you'd get bored because you're not doing anything really during your opponent's turn, but you're excited because now it's your turn. It was a different kind of war game and a different kind of fun, and I could see myself getting into it. And my group certainly is, so that's awesome. You know, if my buddies are all into it, then it's going to make it a lot easier for me to be into it. And I don't have to convince anyone that it's not a dead game, so that's really nice too. Oh, there's a lot I like about it, what can I tell you? Definitely excited about Kings of War, though, and I definitely want to try out the game. I want to play more games of it, just so I can try to figure it out and see if I really enjoy it or if it's just like the new hotness. And it's exciting for me to be able to play this game because now I finally have a use for the Titan Forge Kickstarter army that I bought, if that company ever sends it to me. It was supposed to be here in June, and now they're like, yeah, hopefully it'll be there by the end of December. Not thrilled with them at all. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I want to run the army that I'm getting as the Japanese. It's a historical Kings of War army, but from what I understand, GT rules don't allow historicals, so I'll probably have to go Basilia, which is like the Paladin version of the army or something like that, which is cool too. I mean, I can make it work either way, but it's exciting. I'm charged up, I'm pumped up, my local gaming group is excited about it. This is going to be a lot of fun, or at least that's my hope. But this was a really fun game against a really great opponent, and I'm definitely looking forward to a rematch. But there you go, guys and gals. My first ever Kings of War battle report is officially in the history books. What did you think? Did we screw things up? Probably. Do you have opinions one way or the other? Please share them in the comments section. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, put them in the comments section below. I'll get back to you. It's kind of my thing. And as always, thanks.